So this isn't the original video that I was intending on making. I was going to start doing a rundown of the 3 days of pre-trial hearings and then looking at the different lawyers, the different law enforcement individuals, etc. I decided that I was going to start by doing a who's who video, looking at who's who in terms of lawyers, law enforcement, etc. And then I decided that, well, if I'm going to do that, I should go from the very beginning and do a who's who of the girls and their family. In doing that, I actually came across a really lovely article about Abby Williams and a news video that included her grandfather. So I thought, well, why not share them first? Let's have a look, or let's remember who Abby Williams was. There'll be another video to come looking at Libby, but for this video let's just look at beautiful little Abby Williams. Now I probably need to mention before I start that thanks to the help from those people who have bought a coffee, done the buy me a coffee, those people who did super thanks, those people who have supported me in that way, I've finally been able to replace my iPad. So this is my first video on my new iPad. So I'm just tweaking everything, which means that if there are issues with audio or anything like that, leave a comment in the comments section and let me know so that I'm not missing issues. It's going to take me a while, I guess, to adapt to working back on a iPad, but the plus side is that this is going to make it so much easier for making and editing videos, and it's just going to make my life so much easier. So having said that, thank you very, very much to those people who helped me get this iPad with your buy me a coffee, with your super thanks, for the people who've bought memberships. All those things have helped me with this. And not only that, thank you to all my subscribers because your support means so much to me. So as you can see, this is actually a particularly old article, having been done 12 months after the death of the girls. But it was a really touching article where they had interviewed Abby's grandfather about how he was coping with Abby's loss and about who Abby was. So I wanted to share this article with you. So this article is an interview with Cliff Williams, who was grandfather of Abby Williams. This, of course, will also serve as a bit of a recap for anyone who needs to be re-familiarised with the case. Cliff Williams is still learning how to live without his best friend. His only granddaughter, Abigail Williams, and her friend Libby German were murdered while hiking along the Monon High Bridge Trail on February 13th, 2017. It's a day Cliff will never forget. Abby's missing. I didn't know what to do. I had just gotten out of the shower and I was headed for work, said Cliff. I hadn't even unpacked from the weekend before, said Cliff. So I just threw some clothes in, grabbed my bag and headed for Delphi. He joined the search for Abby and then the unthinkable. Yeah, that was a rough day, he said. Libby and Abby's bodies were found on February the 14th. Toulouse was not even on the radar, said Cliff. You never thought of anything like that. And now to have this happen. I still don't know how to live without her. Cliff saw his granddaughter for the final time the weekend before her death. Abby had decided she wanted to play softball with Libby, and she needed Grandpa to take her shopping for new gear. She called early in the week and said, "Grandpa, I'm all signed up for the girls' softball. I'd like you to come down and take me shopping for a glove and a bat and shoes," Cliff said. He drove down from his Michigan home to Delphi, and the two of them spent the weekend shopping, laughing, and making memories. It was so warm down there, we got back to the hotel and we played catch out in the parking lot with her new glove, said Cliff. Then we went to the park and I got to pitch to her. Hit some flies, the whole grandpa thing. Abby had never played softball before. She was a volleyball player and in school band, but softball was going to be a new adventure. Cliff still remembers the last bit of advice he gave Abby. You got to work hard, practice. You may not get to play a lot, but you just be part of it and work at it and you'll get it, said Cliff. That's how we left it. She was so excited to be on a team with Libby. If you ask Cliff what his favourite memories are, they include things like horseback riding, movie theatres, the mall, and Andy Griffith. All of them include his granddaughter Abby. She was just an awesome kid to be around, said Cliff. Spoiled. I think what that word was used sometimes. Vacation for Cliff meant making the hours-long drive to see Abby. I called them little mini vacations, said Cliff. That was my vacation too. I wouldn't take vacation other than that. They shared a love for Andy Griffith, so much that Cliff bought Abby a TV for her room just so she could watch it. Every year, around the 4th of July, Abby would spend 2 weeks in Michigan. 1 week would be spent at the church camp her mother attended as a child. The other week she would spend with her grandpa Cliff. During those visits, Abby and her grandpa would go see the fireworks and a parade in Grand Rapids, and they would always make time for horseback riding at the Double J Ranch. We would go up for a morning, go for an hour ride, then we'd go back to the hotel, swim and do dinner. And then the next morning we'd go up and do another hour ride, said Cliff. I didn't grow up on a farm or nothing, but I loved it. Anything she liked, I seemed to like. Cliff says Abby is with him in everything he does, and that keeps him going each day, along with the support of his amazing co-workers. The people I work with scooped me up, and we made it, Cliff said, one day at a time. These past summers was one of the hardest for Cliff because his best friend wasn't there to go horseback riding with him. But instead of sitting home, Cliff made the trip to Double J Ranch with her mother, Anna Williams, so they could honour Abby's memory. They spent an hour on the trails, accompanied by a riderless horse that was draped with a wreath designed in Abby and Libby's favourite colours, purple and teal. It was hard, said Cliff. That was the hardest thing this summer. But it's those special memories Cliff made with Abby in her 13 short years that have kept him moving forward. Although he wants Abby's killer to be caught, justice isn't something on Cliff's mind. He'd rather focus on remembering and celebrating his granddaughter's life and the time he had with her while she was here. So bearing in mind that this is an article from 2018, so it was still 4 years before they had caught the mongrel. I learned early on when I was processing this that I can't wait for him to get caught to feel better, because that's never going to happen. My heart's broken, and if they catch him tomorrow, my heart's still broken. If he's off the street, he's not going to do this to someone else's family. But I can't wait for that to happen, said Cliff. There was a video attached to this article, and I'm going to include the full video with this, because what I've noticed when I was looking at some more articles to do with the girls that were, talking about them, that a lot of the original video stuff that was put up in the early days is gone. So I wanted to preserve this video by adding the entire video to this video that I'm making. So some of it is repeating what I've just said in the article.
The only granddaughter I had. I knew this was going to happen.
I should have mentioned there was no option that I could see to remove those subtitles, so they seem to be permanently attached to the video somehow. It may have been a default setting with me going in through Safari, I'm not quite sure, but I apologise, I couldn't get rid of the subtitles.
But I would introduce her as my granddaughter, my best friend.
Cliff Williams misses his best friend. His granddaughter Abby was his shopping sidekick. The one in which a goat accidentally eats dynamite and sends Mayberry into a frenzy.
Watch it, Barney. Yeah. I still watch Andy every day when I get home from work. Every day. It's on when I get home. I'll watch a couple of episodes, but I always think of her when I'm watching them. Because she's right there with me.
All the time?
All the time.
After Abby decided she wanted to play softball like her friend Libby, Grandpa drove to Delphi. That was the weekend before the tragedy near the Monon High Bridge.
She called early in the week and said, Grandpa, I'm all signed up for girls softball, and I'd like you to come down and take me shopping for a glove and a bat and shoes. And it was so warm down here. We got back to the hotel and we played catch out in the parking lot with her new glove, and then we went to the park and I got to pitch to her, hit her some flies, the whole old grandpa thing.
It hardly compensates for the time lost since then. But what a blessing that he did get to spend that time with her the weekend before.
Among their last conversations, Grandpa shared this advice.
I told Abby, I said, you just got to work hard, practice. You might not get to play a lot, but just be part of it and work at it, and you will get it. And that's how we left it. She was so excited about it, to be on a team with Libby and do all that.
Every year around the 4th of July, Abby spent a week at church camp in Michigan after spending 7 days with Grandpa. Their memorable outings included fireworks in Grand Rapids and horseback riding at the Double J Ranch. Following Abby's death, Grandpa made a tough decision. He honored their annual tradition by arranging for a riderless second horse wrapped in a wreath representing Abby's and Libby's favorite colors. Like in years past, he spent an hour on the trails.
While on one hand I fiercely advocate for letting the Williams family be, they've stepped back. They haven't been as public as Libby's family, and we need to respect that. But I'd dearly love to know if that's become a tradition for Cliff and Anna, as it sounds like he took Anna with him the first year, or if it was just one thing and that was all that he needed to do and he didn't choose to do it in subsequent years.
It was really neat.
It was something you had to do.
Yeah. It was hard. Oh. That was the hardest thing this summer, was that.
But you did it because?
I loved her so much.
You still love her?
Yup.
That love extends to this crucifix, that once belonged to his mother, a family heirloom that now watches over Abby's bedroom.
To lose her was not even on the radar. You never thought about anything like that. And then to have this happen, I still don't know how to do it, how to live without her.
I think it's important that we remember the pain that these families have gone through. Because I know that right now there's a lot of people who are just so fixated on the various stories that have been put out by the defence team. And these stories aren't, they're there to derail the prosecution. They're there to try and get this guy off. But there's so much, there's a wall of evidence against Alan. Let's remember that. And let's not speculate over all the crap that's been coming out. Because right now, these families, all this pain has been brought back to the surface. Any healing that's occurred in the last 6 years, right now, they won't be feeling that. It'll all be raw again. All these memories being brought back to the surface. So let's remember that. And I hope that other creators will remember that when they're putting out content about this case.
While I sat in that interview, you could just feel that love in that room. And for Grandpa Cliff, he finds comfort in the big and small things which filled his heart. I was just simply amazed that they had a connection with the Andrew Griffith Show. He was a little girl from the 21st century who loved the show from yesteryear, and it was just amazing to spend that time with him.
Thanks for listening. My next Delphi video will essentially be a who's who, looking at some of the family members who we still see in public, the people that we will hear spoken about, looking at law enforcement who we will hear spoken about, and looking at the legal teams involved in this case. So I'll put that out next for those of you who, perhaps like myself, chose to ignore all the ridiculous hype that's been going on for the last 18 months or so, to bring people back up to speed. But in the meantime, if you're someone who prays, say a quiet prayer for the families of these beautiful girls. Because right now, the pain that they must be going through would be immeasurable.